Hi, this is Kathie with Craft with Kathie. Thanks for joining me this evening. I'm coming at you from the suburbs west of Chicago. Let me know where you're watching from. How's the temps by you? We've gotten a little sprinkling of snow around here today. Not bad, actually. But on the flip side, I'd rather we get none. But whatever. Sorry about that. And boy, am I crooked. Hang on. Let me try and straighten this out. I checked it before I clicked live, but I think I bumped a bit and made things a little crooked. Hopefully that's better. Okay, I'm going to do another ink project tonight, and this is going to be on a t-shirt, and I wanted to show you my little trick for using the ink mat. I've already placed the ink mat in this shirt, turned the shirt inside out, pressed it down. Our ink mats are adhesive, okay, and this is the thin, long one, and then I'm going to flip the shirt around. But before I did this, I kind of lined it up with like the underarm part of here, so that I will drop the design a little bit lower than that, and then I measured from the outside to the seam on both sides to make sure that they matched, to make sure that I had it centered. Easy way of doing it. You wouldn't obviously have to flip this over, but I don't have a lot of room on my table for with my mat for this, so that's why I did it, and it just works. I just know that I have it centered, and now I could turn it right side out and actually get to inking. So let me remove this from the table. I don't have enough room to do it up there, I'm sorry. I like the mats because it keeps your fabric in one place. It doesn't scoot or move around on you. And it obviously is there to act as a barrier between the front of the shirt and the back of the shirt. We don't want the ink transferring from the front, bleeding through onto the back, so hence the ink mat. Let me just get this a little bit more wrinkle-free here. I flipped it around and, of course, garbled it and picked up a little bit of husky fur there. I swear, huskies are beautiful, beautiful, smart dogs, but honestly, they shed like crazy. A little sneaky peeky of tomorrow, so let me get that out of the way. And pull up the collar here. Here we go. So smooth it out as best as you can. Obviously, I usually work on a little bit larger of a surface than this. It makes it a little bit easier to maneuver. Transfer that I'm going to use tonight for this is called Ornamental Deer, and I think it lends itself to being on a t-shirt. This is a little bit nicer than a t-shirt. I'm not quite sure what the fabric is, but it's a little bit, it's not cotton, it's a little fancier, if you will, but it'll work on this fine. And this is the actual transfer, and I'm going to do the deer in one color and then the ornaments in a different, and I think I'm going to make all the little strings for the ornaments in shimmer gold. Now I kind of hesitated a little bit, and I'm not quite sure what I want to do with this, so maybe you can provide a little input on what you think, what your ideas are. I've got bark that I could do the deer in, and fawn, and I'm leaning towards the fawn. I know it's a little bit light. I could probably mix these or whatever, but I'm almost thinking that the bark, or even if I mixed them, would be a little bit too dark, being that the shirt is navy. Do you think I'm okay? I'm just going with the fawn. I think it might brighten it up a little bit. And then for the actual ornaments, of course, you know me and my shimmers, I'm going to go with copper, gold. I'm thinking this cranberry jam, but then again, it looks kind of dark, so maybe not. Same thing with my purple here. I've got a regal. Maybe the regal instead of the cranberry jam. It's a little bit lighter, but it's still kind of dark for the shirt. My tie's kind of dark. I've got all dark colors out here. Maybe my teal and maybe eucalyptus, maybe a little bit lighter there. And maybe I'll mix a little bit up. maybe I could mix a little white with a little bit of blue and come up with a little lighter blue. I think that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, what do you think? I'm open to any and all suggestions here. Yes, I know I pulled out a whole boatload of inks here, but I knew I was definitely going with the shimmers. Okay, so let me take this transfer out of this packaging. I'm going to adhere it. I do not need to fuzz it because, once again, I'm doing it on fabric. So I don't want to lessen the adhesiveness of the transfer. I want it to stick very, very strongly. And remember, our transfers are reusable 8 to 12 times or more. Our transfers are made out of vinyl, which is the teal, and silkscreen, and you're able to see through the silkscreen to the surface beneath it, which in this case happens to be my shirt. I'm going to just measure this. So I didn't grab my ruler, but let me just see from here to the end. And no, I need to move it up a little bit. Move it over to the right, which in my case is up. I could have, if I was thinking a little bit, seriously, the best way to lay it out and make sure that you have everything. Now that I just pulled it up, that I did really well, didn't I? The best way to center your transfer on the mat would be actually using our placement tape. And all I would have had to do was measure the size of my mat. Make sure that I still have everything aligned properly here. Honestly, I do have a ruler somewhere. We were putting ornaments outside, kind of dangling them from the, I don't know what to call it, the edging of the railing on the top of the porch, and my yardstick and stuff is out there. Anyway, I'll just wing it a little bit here. It's just a little bit past the U. Just a little bit past the U, so I think I'm fine on those. Okay. So I've got that centered now. So this is, goodness, I really do need a ruler, don't I? Let's see. What I would normally do, my transfer is 8.5 by 11. I'm guessing that my mat is probably 11 or 12 inches. And what I would normally do is measure in from that edge and lay out my placement tape. You know what? There's a little ruler on this, so when I'm in a pinch, why not just use it? Inch and a quarter. Whoops. I think an inch and a quarter might just be fine. Let me get it in the right spot. Inch and a quarter. Okay, so an inch and a quarter in from my the edge of my mat. And you know what? This mat might not be the size it normally comes in because I have a feeling I cut it at some point. So if anybody is asking or needs to know what size the mat really should be, just let me know and I'll get back to you. So I want an inch and a quarter in. From each side. I'm sorry, I really do apologize. I should have had a ruler out here. Sometimes I can wing it and know that it's centered, but I just wanted to be absolutely positive here. Got my edge right here, and there's my inch and a quarter here. So as long as I'm between these two areas, I should be fine. So let's try this again. course I want it straight, so I might have to do a little lifting and finagling here. Oh, no, that looks, actually that looks pretty good. How do you like that? Okay, so I want to smooth it out, make sure there are no air bubbles. I've got a little wrinkle in there somewhere. It might be on the back. It was on the back. Nope, it's actually on the shirt. Let me lift up and reapply. These are some of the things that sometimes you run into. So here's your way around them, right? There, I had that wrinkle. Oh, goodness. One of the things that I have to admit is a little bit easier. If you're working with stretchy fabric, it's a little bit more difficult just because of what I just did. You could pull it and tug it and you will have, it'll stretch with you, or you might have a wrinkle underneath it like I do right here. So sometimes it's easier to work more with like a cotton than anything with spandex. And this obviously has some spandex in it. So just a little FYI there. Unless you have the patience, and sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Okay, so let's get going. Start with my fawn. Ooh, wait a second. Need to get a squeegee. Okay, some parchment paper on top. Iron it or heat press it at the temperature specific for the fabric. Turn it inside out. My goodness. Parchment paper on the opposite side, and then press it at the same temperature for the recommended time for the particular fabric. Let me get a little stir stick here. And I want to check out my paste before I use it. My ink, sorry, ink. Before I use it. Get this out of the way. The one thing you want to be careful with ink is make sure you do not have it on your fingers, that you do not splatter it, that you do not stir it and have it splatter. Now my ink is a little thick. I probably haven't honestly used the fawn since last year. So I'm going to spritz it with a little bit of distilled water to thin it. And I know I'm off camera, but I want to be a little away from my project because I don't want to accidentally splatter any of the ink on it. So that's really the big difference. You have to heat set ink. Ink can be used on fabric. It can be used on ceramic. It can be used on metal. Anything that you're going to wash, you want to use ink as opposed to paste, because obviously you don't want to wash something off. Now on canvas, sometimes I use ink and sometimes I use paste. It depends. If my canvas is going to be outside or if it's on a pillowcase it's going to be washed, I'll use ink. Otherwise, I use paste. Okay, so took a big dollop there because I have a rather large area to cover. And I'm just going to pull the paste over the silk screen in one direction. Scoop up a little bit more. You don't have to apply a lot of pressure or anything, just glide the ink over your silk screen with your squeegee. Kind of like scraping off a little bit of the excess. It's not really scraping me though. I'm just actually more smoothing, if that makes any sense. Kind of a gentle movement with. Now, our ink will actually soak into your fabric and blend with the fabric and become one. It's not like vinyl where you've got it laying on top and it could crackle and flake once it's washed and dried or whatever. The ink actually bonds with the fabric so that once it's been heat set, it's there. Okay, I can't quite go in the direction I want here, but I just don't want to go back and forth over it. Getting into a little bit of a tight spot. Here we go. Get the top of that little point of the antler. Now, I'm going a different direction with this just because it's easier to spread the ink, but I'm not going back and forth. I'm not going vertical and then horizontal. When I apply it, I just apply it gently in the same area. And let it soak into the fabric. Now, I'm going to show you something. Oops. Time to wash my fingers. Anytime you get ink, check your fingers. Make sure that you remove it before you touch or continue with your project, because you don't want to accidentally get the ink on your project and smear it and end up with a little blob of it or whatever. So a couple finger checks as you go along. That's really the only thing different with inking. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take this little piece of placement tape and put it right there. So in case I go off the edge with my squeegee there, when I get my antler here, oops, need a little bit more paste here. I don't want to go off onto the shirt. I don't want to go off the transfer onto the shirt, if that makes sense. So this little piece of placement tape will prevent me from making a little oops there. Just need to get the edge of the antler here. I think I was going this direction, and wasn't I? And I need to get right in here and get this little edge. And I like to go over it again just to make, oops, I switched directions on that, didn't I? Dang it. Didn't mean to do that. Just in case it hasn't fully sunk into the fabric. Oops. I want to get some on the edge here because I know I missed a spot. There we go. Right up to the edge. Just take your time and you'll be fine. I'm just removing the lines, making sure I've got good coverage. Okay, so I think I'm done with the fawn. Let me close this up and get it out of the way. I'm going to add the gold little threads that are holding the ornaments. So I need a little bit smaller of a squeegee to kind of get in a little bit tighter of a spot. So let me grab our mini squeegee here and do the lines, and then we'll do the ornaments, and then we'll be done. So just grabbing a little bit of my ink. I actually like, my best way I'm most comfortable, I guess, is to actually pull the squeegee towards me. I feel like I have more control over it that way. Time for the detail tool. Over here it's a little bit tighter of a spot, so I'm going to add a little bit of ink onto that little squeegee edge of my detail tool and just go over that. The detail tool is really cool. It helps you get into tight places like this. And one end is the tiny, tiny little squeegee, and the other end's a little pointy tool. Yesterday I ended up smearing a little bit of ink on my project in an area where I didn't intend. And before it had fully dried, where it had just thickened up a little bit, I was able to come back over with the little point and kind of lift it off and scrape off. I actually had done something in a pinstripe and scrape off the white where I didn't need it, or what shouldn't have been, and it worked out great. Kind of saved the day. So I'm just going over this again to make sure. Now I'm using the shimmers, and the shimmers sometimes are a little bit challenging getting through the silk screen. They're a little bit, I don't want to say thicker, but because of that, like the shimmer or the like sparkle or the, oh, it's not really glitter, but that quality to it, you have to give it a little bit effort sometimes to go through. Okay, so let me get this out of the way. I do this ornament in gold just because it's a little tight in there, and why not? I'm going to do one of them in gold anyway, so I'm doing that one in gold, and I'll probably do this one in gold. A little bit of a balance there. So while I still have my gold shimmer out, I might as well work on those two first. I want to get that little hanger part at the top of the ornament. And I'm just going over the string again. Might mix up a little bit of copper and a little bit of my white to get something in between, and then use the shimmers for all the ornaments. I think I like that idea. So let me get a little color tray here. You can mix your colors of inks the same way you can mix your colors of paste. Just pick what you want. I mean, you know, obviously like yellow and blue would create green. I need to clean off my stir stick here. So I'm going to add a little bit of white to the copper so that I use the copper by itself, and then I'll have a lighter version of the copper so that I'll have basically all metallic kind of colors. And I'm just going to mix the two of them to get a lighter shade or a different shade of the copper. It doesn't look too shimmery anymore. A little bit. But I think it'll blend with the other two well. Set that aside. Do a finger check. Scraping off what's on my squeegee. And then I want to do copper here, and that's going to be a little tight getting into, so I think I'm going to use my detail tool again. I'm going to clean that up a little bit better. If you are not a member of my VIP group, but would like to be privy to additional videos, some tips and tricks, the occasional game or two, comment VIP below, and I will send you the link. No obligation whatsoever. The VIP group is open to all but other designers, so you're free to join. Just let me know and I'll send you the link for it. I had a little bit of paste on the end of my squeegee there. Okay, didn't want that. So let me grab a little bit of copper here and do this ornament in between my others. Sometimes you need to think through a little bit more where you want to ink first, and I probably should have inked this one before I inked the gold at the bottom here. just because this makes it a little bit more difficult to get into and do. Obviously, I don't want to go over the edge. I grabbed a little bit too much paste there. I'll go over this a second time, just smoothing it through. Make sure it's going through. When I lift this, I'll lift it very slowly so that if I see anything that I missed, I could fix it. If I pull the transfer off, I could let it dry. If there's a problem, I could let it dry and go back again, lay it back down once it's dry, and re-ink. If I missed something or if something didn't go through properly. And then I'm going to do this one in the little mixed up color. Hang on a second there, I actually ended up with a glob of ink on my squeegee that I need to clean off. But look at how simple and easy this is. I mean, basically the fun part of it is you can do whatever you want. You can mix and match words and picks from different transfers. Really no special tools. I mean, in essence, you need a squeegee, you need some ink, right? An ink mat helps. If you don't have an ink mat, you could always use cardboard. But if you're going to do a fair amount of inking, I'd recommend the ink mat. And then just a regular iron if you don't have a heat press. I've heard of people like cuffing up their jeans and inking part of a design on the jean on the cuff that's exposed or that's rolled up, and then doing part of the design or following through on the design on a t-shirt, so you have a nice coordinated little outfit. I think that might be kind of cool for teens or preteens or even adults. What the heck, right? Okay. Let me clean things up a little bit, close things up, and then we'll lift that transfer up and see how it's turned out. And of course, I'm going to wash my fingers or make sure I have no ink on them before I go lifting the transfer. That's the most dangerous time to accidentally, see, I've got some, have some ink on your fingertips that you don't realize, and you go to lift it up and then get a smudge. And we don't want that. If you would like an hour of creative bliss showing up on your doorstep once a month for only $21.99, come on club. If you're not a member of Club Couture, you're missing out. You get an exclusive design for designers and club members only every month. Comes direct to your door, free shipping. The transfers are 8.5 by 11, same size as this one. And you get 3 individual paste packets that will allow you to make the design 2 or more times. And remember, the transfer is reusable, so you can make it for yourself, make it for a friend, make it some gifts for it, with it, whatever. Okay. Oh, this fabric is a little bit of a challenge for me. I have done spandex before, or kind of like a spandex before, but the pulling up is not as nice. I mean, I'd like to do this a little bit slower and make sure that everything has been inked, but it's fighting me a little bit, so I'll do my best there. We'll see what we're looking at. I don't want it to smudge on itself. Let me get this transfer out of the way. I ended up with ink on me, so let me get the ink off of my fingers. I'm not sure if I'm going to need to go back over this, or if it's that the fabric just stretched and is looking a little funny now. Here we go. Yes, I have a little area right there that might need a little bit of paste. Ink, of course. I can't really tell until I bring it closer to me. A lot of our designs are deliberately distressed so that if you do make an oops, it just fits with the design. For example, look at the deer here. You know what? I actually think this is fine. I'm going to let it dry. If I do need to come back there and just lay the transfer down to get that little edge, I will do it. Obviously here, there is no edge because of the shape and the design of the ornament. If you don't want to set it aside to dry overnight, you could use our cooling tool to dry it, to speed up the drying of it. Or actually, if you don't have the cooling tool, which has a concentrated force of cooler air, you can use a hair dryer. Just set it on cool and speed up the drying in that manner. But that's pretty much it. Easy peasy, isn't it? What do you think of this ornamental deer? Once I get it ironed and whatever, I'll post another pic of it. Maybe even put it on someone to model it or whatever. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight. I surely do appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening. See you soon.